Welcome to Living the Single Life Show. This is a show which addresses the issues, concerns, and highlights the excitement of living life as an adult Christian single. I'm your host, Deborah Asbury. Today we're going to be talking about the topic, overcoming when facing life's challenges. We've got two very special guests who will be with us, Marlisa Capps and Dr. Latour Wilcox Pryor. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Living the Single Life Show. I'm your host, Deborah Asbury. As I mentioned earlier, we're talking with Marlisa Capps right now. Marlisa has an awesome story that she wants to share. It's a story actually that will bless many of you who may be going through a similar situation. Marlisa cared for her elderly mother as a single lady herself. Of course, you know, when you're single, there's a lot of things that you want to do. Dating is one of them. And she made quite a few sacrifices. So I just want to introduce you all to Marlisa Capps. Marlisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And I know this is kind of a touchy subject, but it's a subject that's necessary. As we get older, of course, we're in the generation where the baby boomers are caring for their elderly parents. Unfortunately, some parents have gone on, but we know that that's a part of life. Right. And this is one of those subjects that, you know, we don't necessarily want to deal with, but we have to deal with it.
Right.
And I wanted you to come on the show today to share your specific story. So talk with us a little bit, first of all, about your family dynamics, and then we'll kind of delve into the conversation of the story of you caring for your mother a little later on.
Okay. Well, at the time, I'm the youngest of five, three of us living. I have two older sisters, and I'm single, of course.
Right.
I was working a full-time job, and my sisters were both retired. And I actually lived with my mom, because at that time she was starting to develop some physical challenges that were concerning. So.
You know, I remember that, Marlisa, because we were working together at the time. I know it's been quite a few years. And I just remember thinking that while you are a very strong young lady to have endured that, you were single, you were caring for your mom, and I don't even remember you missing, many days off from work.
Not many, and honestly, I can't recall how I made it. I know it was the grace of God.
Right, right.
But with each day, just some kind of strength helped me get through.
Exactly, exactly. And so you mentioned you are, one of three siblings. You are the youngest, right?
I am.
Okay. And being the youngest of those three siblings, you were living in the home with your mother. Did you feel kind of like, they figured, well, since you were living with her, that was your responsibility and they didn't necessarily have to pitch in?
I think that from their perspective, it was really convenient, me being single and one of my sisters being married and the other being the eldest, that I was a better fit to be there most of the time with my mom.
Okay.
We actually rotated her caregiving where they would alternate shifts every day, and I would pick up the evening shift after working in the day. And so I was Florence Nightingale.
Oh, okay,
if you will. Just making sure all of her needs were met throughout the night, administering medicine and turning her about, and everything else that you would do in a facility or a hospital.
Okay, so in other words, you cared for her in your home. She was not in a nursing home. And then your siblings, they did pitch in some.
They did, and we actually collaborated and agreed that we wouldn't put our mother in a nursing home because she had taken care of us all of our life.
Exactly.
And in our best interest and hers too, we wanted her to have the best care possible, such as we could give. So
exactly.
We decided to turn her bedroom into a hospital room, if you will.
Got you.
And created some kind of schedule that would allow us to just take care of her to the best of our ability. But
And-
at times, you know, some people do take on more responsibility than others, and that was the scenario for me.
Right, right. And that was very honorable of you. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys did have a CNA, a certified nurse assistant, that kind of came in and helped from time to time as well, right?
We did. We actually really befriended her because we wanted someone that we could trust and
Okay.
who was willing to give the same care as we were administering. And it worked out very well. She was actually a part of my mother's care giving for the 2 years after her sickness.
Gotcha, gotcha. We'll be back in just a few moments and we'll continue our conversation with Marlisa Capps. Stay with us.
Sugar Daddies, events by Lil Wayne, Wayne Webb Master Baker, 404-402-3056.
Many blessings to Living the Single Life Show with your host, Deborah Asbury from Inspired Travel.
Welcome back to Living the Single Life Show, and I'm your host, Deborah Asbury. We're back here today with Marlisa Capps, and we're talking about the subject of caring for elderly parents. Well, you know what, Marlisa? Now, I know you touched on the fact that you had a situation with your siblings, and I know it's that everything the times have all been mended,
Yes.
but you actually went through some counseling at that time, right? So talk with us a little bit about that process, the process of you deciding to go through counseling, and then when you shared that with your siblings.
I think at one point I just felt very helpless and defenseless. I was living a reality that I couldn't change. My mother had been stricken with a debilitating disease and was not able to communicate. And it was tough seeing her suffer and
Right.
feeling that my sisters didn't necessarily feel the same way I did. I was advised that perhaps I should seek out someone who would be unbiased, able to take the
Okay.
information, process it, and then offer suggestions on how I could regroup and remend the relationship between my sisters that I thought was deteriorating.
Okay.
And so it actually was very helpful and helped me relate and understand that we all loved our mom,
Right.
but we all loved in different ways, and how to approach them with whatever it was that was concerning to me, and the message be heard. And it worked.
Good, good.
And I would attribute that to saving our relationship.
Good, very good. And okay, you have two sisters, and then of course yourself. So we're talking about three different personalities there.
Definitely.
So I know that it's sounding, after the fact, everything is okay, but, just to paint a clear picture, and I know that you don't want to see anyone go through this. I don't want to see anyone go through this, but the reality is I have an aging mother myself.
Sure.
And like you mentioned that you and all your siblings love your mother, I love my mother dearly. My father passed 2 years ago. And that's another reason why I thought, this is really an important topic to present in this type of format so that others can hear it, others can, kind of understand that, if my mother or my father is not at that point, I need to get prepared.
Right.
So with all that said, you went through counseling. Counseling turned out well.
Yes.
And so in counseling, that it helped you understand your siblings. It helped your siblings understand you.
Yes.
Okay. As a result, talk with us about the overall result.
The overall result really helped me, as well as my sisters, kind of release the animosity and anger and all those ill feelings that had come up as a
Right.
result of making that commitment and essentially putting our lives on hold to ensure she had the best of care.
Right.
And I think learning to understand that it wasn't just challenging for us, but it was challenging for my mom, who had been independent and, you know, able
Oh,
to do things for
yes. Oh,
herself,
yes.
and now not in a position to do any of that. And so,
And I know that's probably the hardest part of it all is just, you know, seeing your parent deteriorate before your eyes, and that's someone
Yes.
that you always looked up to, someone who you loved and really loved you, who really taught you what love was all about.
absolutely.
You know, I mean, that's how I feel about it. And, you know, I could imagine it was hard for you all, but just to summarize, you guys came to an understanding that you all loved your mother, you all had the same, you all had her best interest at hand, and you had the same goals
Yes.
in mind as well. So I did have the privilege of attending the homegoing ceremony of your mother's.
Yes, you
And I remember, you know, meeting your sisters, and it was a beautiful, I mean, just really a beautiful homegoing celebration. And so I know with the counseling and everything that you all went through,
Yes.
if you had to do it all over again, would you change anything?
No. I know others who hear this might say that that was a grave sacrifice, literally putting my life on hold.
Right.
But I wanted her taken care of, and I could not volunteer anyone else to do it.
Right.
And rather than put her in a facility, not that those places, you know, aren't nice, I just wanted to be the one to take care of her the way she took care of me.
Exactly, exactly. So what advice would you give to someone who is going through a situation that's similar to yours?
I would say, first of all, recognize that it's going to be challenging, and to make sure that you have a good support system and that you are prepared to go the distance. And when you
Okay.
feel that you can't go any further, make sure you have someone there to support you and help you get to where you're going.
Exactly. Marlisa, thank you so very much for sharing that with us today. The only thing that I want to add to those of you who are watching, if you are in a similar situation, or you know someone that's in this type of situation, be sure and just get in touch with your insurance providers. There are various programs. Get in touch with your human resource office. If you are working with a company, you may have benefits available to you that you are not aware of. And you can get the support that you need. Of course, your church, you can do some research online to help you get the support that you need if you are caring for an aging elderly parent. Again, we thank you so very much for watching. Thank you for your time, Marlisa. Of course, we're going to be back in just a few moments with Dr. Wilcox, who's going to shed a little more light on this topic, and also she's going to talk about a book that she has written as well. Thank you, and we'll be right back.
And I wanna see miracles, heal the lame.
Dolls and Cars' mission is to teach godly principles while helping youth and serving people in the community. We do this by providing information about different occupations and allowing them to participate in a hands-on activity.
Welcome back to Living the Single Life Show. I'm your host, Deborah Asbury, and we're continuing the subject today of overcoming when facing life's challenges. Earlier, we talked with Marlisa Capps regarding caring for her elderly mother, and right now I've got with me Dr. Latour Wilcox Pryor, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's also a wife, she's a minister, and she's an entrepreneur. Help me welcome Dr. Latour Wilcox Pryor to the set. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you
for being
so
here.
much for being here.
Yes.
I know you were listening to my interview with Marlisa earlier.
Yes, I was.
And I was just wondering, do you have any additional information that you would like to add to the subject of caring for elderly parents?
Yes. First, let me say I commend her because it's not an easy task what she's doing and what she has
Exactly.
done caring for an elderly parent. I myself was in a position where I cared for an elderly parent. And the best thing I could say is everything that she said, I agree with it, from personal care, support system, even counseling if you need. But the most
Right.
important thing I would say is self-care. It's so important to have self-care when you're taking care of someone else because of the emotional, it's not really a burden, but the strain that it could take on you.
You know what? I completely agree with you.
Yes.
It's just like when you're riding an airplane, and at the beginning, whenever they're going over the instructions, in case there's any problems, when they say put the mask on yourself before
Yes.
helping the child next to you.
Yes.
If you're not taking care of yourself, if you are not, if you don't have the oxygen to breathe yourself,
Yes.
then you can't really help someone else.
Yes.
So I appreciate that.
And in
Definitely
a
receive it.
situation like that, it's not an expectation that you take care of yourself at all when you're caretaking. You know,
Right.
people don't expect that you ever take care of yourself because it's always the role you're in as a caretaker. So
Exactly.
you have to take care of yourself. Very
Well,
important.
it's just like being a wife or a parent. You know, taking care of yourself isn't even part of your thought
Yes.
processes.
Yes.
So thank you for that advice. Another thing, as as a wife, I mentioned before, you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur, you're the CEO
Yes.
of Dare to Be Counseling Services.
Yes.
Also, we're going to be discussing the book that you wrote, Dr. Wilcox. What's the
Yes.
name of the book?
3 Women, The Roads Traveled.
3 Women, the Roads
Roads
Traveled.
Traveled.
Okay, when did you find time to even begin to write?
Well, actually, the book came about after I lost my father suddenly.
Oh, okay.
And it was due to his death and all that I had went through, caretaking him for a short time. He had cancer, and then he bounced back from that. And then one day I just received a phone call. I was expecting him to come home from the hospital. I received a phone call that you need to come to the hospital because basically my dad was dying. So it all happened within 24 hours. And after his death, I remember just coming home, back to my reality, and really, if I might say, the Holy Spirit encouraged me to write this book. And I kind of shut everything down. I took a sabbatical from everything, everybody, except, of course, my husband. And I wrote the book in about 3 days.
Are you
The
kidding?
draft in about 3 days, yeah.
Wow. So at that time, did you have both your parents, or was your father your last surviving parent?
He was my last surviving parent. And his
Okay.
death was totally unexpected, yes.
So that inspired you to write the book
Right.
because of your father passing.
Right.
And it's 3 women's journey.
Yes, 3 Women's Journey.
So what went into the thought processes with, adding 2 other ladies?
Well, what happened was I went through this experience and it was kind of traumatic, to be totally honest.
Yes.
And unexpected loss, and it was traumatic. And then I had 2 friends that were very, very supportive. And over the years, we had become great friends. And they had shared some of their triumphs with me as well as me sharing with them. And I thought, you know what? If my story doesn't touch someone, I know that their story would touch someone. And so I asked them to collaborate with me on this book and just to share our stories. Because you know what? In the healing process, it's all about sharing. And they agreed to do it, and I was so happy. And I hope that the book just touched many lives.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
And I am privy to know, as a matter of fact, we have a mutual friend, one of the ladies.
Yes.
Miss Shirley.
Simmons.
Miss Shirley Simmons. Well, that is so awesome. I can't wait. I've kind of read a few pieces of it.
Yes.
And I can't wait to read the full manuscript. What do you desire your readers to take away from the book?
To live one day at a time and fall in love every day with life.
Oh, I like that.
You can survive whatever you could imagine that you could not survive. You can survive it.
I really
And to
like
fall
that.
in love with life every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Fall
Give me
in
an
love.
example. Give me an example of how you do that.
Every day you wake up, you appreciate the day that you have. You appreciate the surroundings. You appreciate your families. You appreciate your friends. Fall in love with life every day in that moment. Because I think sometimes we take it for granted that the person we love will be here tomorrow, or that we can do something that we desire to do tomorrow. No, start your journey today, right now.
Exactly. I love that. Well, hold that thought. That is so
Yes.
wonderful. We're going to be right back in just a few moments.
Okay.
And we will continue talking with Dr. Latour Wilcox here. Dr. Latour has so many other interesting things that she is going to share, so please stay with us. We'll be right back with Living the Single Life.
Congratulations to Living the Single Life show with host Deborah Asbury on its first season. VitraGibsonMD.com, board certified American Board of Plastic Surgery.
Many blessings to Living the Single Life show with your host, Deborah Asbury from Inspired Travel.
Welcome back to Living the Single Life show. I'm your host, Deborah Asbury, and we're continuing the conversation with Dr. Latour Wilcox Pryor, who's talking about her book, 3 Women, The Roads Traveled.
Yes.
Dr. Wilcox, you know, that is such an awesome subject. And also with that subject, three women, the roads traveled.
Yes.
Not only did you all experience loss, you experienced, triumphs,
Yes.
victories. Okay, we're going to go back just a little further too. We want to talk about relationships.
Okay.
And since this show is Living the Single Life
Yes.
show, and of course you are married, happily married
Yes.
now.
Yes.
It was so nice to meet your husband too. I think I mentioned to you guys that you look like a match made in heaven.
Yes. He's a blessing. He's a true blessing.
Great.
Yes.
So, being that we know that he's a blessing,
Yes.
talk with us a little bit about how you guys met, and I'd love to hear a good story about, 2 people coming together, and of course, the ultimate marriage. You guys are married now.
Yes, we are. Actually, we met in seminary school. And I was
Okay.
sitting in front of him, and I turned around and I asked him for a piece of candy. And he said, I don't have any candy. And the next day he came back to class. He had a smorgasbord of candy. And I took
Oh,
all the
wow.
candy, and we have been together ever since.
And did you have a little hint that he must have liked you before that?
No, not at all. Not
You
at
just
all.
wanted a piece of candy.
I just wanted a piece of candy, and I turned around, and I probably made a little joke because I'm a jokester. I made a little joke, and he said he didn't have any, and the next day he brought back a variety, and he's been giving
Get
me a
outta
variety
here.
ever since.
Okay, I'm sure he's going to like to hear that.
Yes, yes, yes.
That is a wonderful
how we met.
story. So, what advice would you give to single women? I'm single.
Yes.
And I was, telling a gentleman earlier, you're single even if you are dating, you're in a relationship, you may not be available, but you're still single until you get married.
Yes.
So, since we've defined clearly what being single is all about, what advice would you give to other single ladies when it comes to waiting on their mate?
I would just say, ask yourself the hard questions.
Okay.
And one of the hard questions, a very important hard question, is look in the mirror and ask yourself, would I marry me? And if you hesitate, it might mean that there's some work that you need to do on yourself, which is perfectly fine.
I like
Okay?
that.
And if you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, honestly, no, I would not marry me, then that
Okay.
means you're not ready. Because why would you want to bring think about it. Why would you want to bring someone else into your space when you are not comfortable with who you are yet?
I got you. And you know what? That's my motto too.
Absolutely.
I try to be the person that I want to be with.
Yes.
So that includes being a person who is honest, being a person who's, trustworthy,
Yes.
has high integrity. Try to take care of myself because, I want someone that's easy on the eyes. So,
Absolutely.
I don't know how
Absolutely.
well I'm doing, but it's a work in progress.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
very good, very, very good advice,
Yes.
Dr. Wilcox. So, what do you think your husband would say to single men who need to be married? Because, a lot of times I notice that men are not necessarily like us women. We desire to be married. So, we need that advice. Men are not necessarily seeking out that advice.
Right.
So what do you think he would say to those men who actually, need to be married?
Well, we've had the conversation about, men that I guess he feels wants to be married more than need to be married.
Oh, okay.
Because he feels there's a desire to want a spouse rather than to need. Because if you move into the
Got you.
need aspect
Uh-huh.
of the relationship, then you might settle for the wrong person.
Oh,
but
okay.
if you wait and, want a wife, I think he would probably say, make sure that you have yourself together. If you're able to provide for yourself,
Okay.
make sure, mind, body, and soul is okay, because he will tell you, that men go through things that women don't necessarily go through.
Exactly.
And so basically to be healthy by yourself, so
Okay.
at that point you can bring somebody into your space.
Exact. Very good advice.
Yeah.
Tell him I said thank you for that
Oh, I
advice when
will.
you see him.
I will. Yes.
And another reason I asked that question, I remember a few years ago, this gentleman told me, he says, he was introducing me to a friend of him and his wives. And he was saying, the thing about this is, the thing about men is, they may be single one day, they don't have any plans to get married, and next thing you know, they're married. And so that right there tells me that, their thought processes are quite differently from
Yes,
ours.
yes.
And I guess if any of us think about family members that we have kind of observed and friends, how one day they were single and next thing you know, they got married and they never did anything like us as far as went on and on. Oh, I'm going to get married. They may just say, I met this girl, she's nice. And they're not thinking, they're kind of clueless.
Right, right.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but they're just a little clueless, and next thing you know, they're married. And it's all good.
Yes.
It's all good. It's just like whenever God presented Eve to Adam,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
he said, hey, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, woman.
Right. But when God presented Eve to Adam,
Uh-huh.
Adam was already established and ready to receive a wife.
Hey,
Okay.
I like that.
He was already, the animals have been named already.
Okay.
He had
He was
everything.
working.
He was
Okay.
working. He had dominion. So he didn't just, receive Eve. He was prepared
He was
to
prepared.
receive Eve. And so it's important that we are prepared to receive a mate as well.
That's the word. That is the
Absolutely.
word. Well, thanks, guys, for watching today. That's the word for us women,
Yes,
as well as the
absolutely.
word for men.
Absolutely.
We have to be prepared.
And there's nothing wrong if
and-
you're not prepared.
Exactly.
There's nothing
because
wrong
we're going
with
to
it.
ask the hard questions.
We're gonna
And
ask
when
the
we
hard
ask those hard
questions.
questions, that will set us up
Yes.
to get prepared.
Yes.
So thank you so very much. How can someone get a hold of your book? And also get a hold of you as well, for speaking engagements.
Okay, I have an email address, drlatorawilcox@yahoo.com.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And that's how they can find out about the book as well.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Well, it has been so wonderful chatting
Yes,
with you
thank
today.
you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
I want to thank you all for watching us today. Again, we're here living the single life. You can look us up on Facebook. Go to livingthesingletifeshow.com for more information. I'm your host, Deborah Asbury. And remember, let everything you do be done in love. Thank you for watching.